When looking at failed video game consoles, two of the big ones really come to mind, and when you get down to it, they're unbelievably similar. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today we look at the Sega Saturn versus the Turbografx 16 in a showdown.
Second Opinion Games.
When you think of the Sega Saturn, pinball probably isn't the first style of gameplay that comes to mind, which is a shame because the Last Gladiator's pinball game is one of the system's best hidden gems. It can be found at a relatively cheap price, which for a Sega Saturn game is not easily done, and it happens to be a fast and frantic pinball game because the ball physics, if not perfect, are way too fast. However, that doesn't mean the game is hard. As a matter of fact, it's easy. I could get the high score on most tables my very first time playing, and trying to manipulate the ball to get it to go exactly where you want it to go is really easy and fun. Getting multi-ball happens often and all the time, and that is one of the most exciting parts about playing pinball itself. Also, it tells you exactly where to launch the ball, and it never really gets in the way of the screen. However, it does start to get annoying once you really know the tables, and it never seems to go away. Also, you can see what's going on in the storyline as it flashes over the main playfield of the screen, and that gets kind of annoying, but it never actually hurts you because the ball is always being taken care of somehow why that's going on. And then when it goes away, you have enough time to react. This is an unbelievably fun pinball game, and over on the Turbografx 16, we have Devil's Crush. For all you people out there that wanted something a little tamer, I'm sorry, you can't hold back the power of the Turbografx 16. And what about pinball machines that make you think hardcore rock and roll death metal? Because the music here also sounds amazing, just like in our previous game. And there's only one table here, but it is full of secrets and zones. The ball physics might not be as good, but that's okay because this is trying to do something a little bit different. Instead of trying to mimic a real-life pinball table, they actually have demons and monsters that you have to slaughter for extra points, and that is really a lot of fun. This is one of the coolest digital pinball games ever made, and it also happens to be one of the first, and probably the first done right. So, man, trying to pick which one of these is better is gonna be a lot harder than I thought. Power Drift is a rarely talked about Sega Saturn game, probably because it only came out in Japan, so we completely missed this incredibly cool super scaler. When you wipe out, your car kind of takes up the entire screen, which is kind of annoying, but just look at these graphics. This is unbelievably cool how they make 2D look like 3D, and half the time it feels like you're on a roller coaster. Even the way they warp the pixels as you make your way around corners, and it actually feels like the game is assisting you in the corners too. Oh man, this is so much fun, and the music is easygoing and relaxing, which doesn't seem to fit at all, which just makes it even more hilarious to play. As you play through the game, it starts to get ridiculously difficult, and you'll be smashing around every single corner. And oh my god, please just let me play. Each of the matches only last a couple of seconds, which is just great if you have a few minutes to play, but if you want to sit down and play it long term, you're probably gonna end up throwing up from all the motion sickness. Wait a second, Power Drift also came out for the Turbografx 16, also only in Japan. I guess that makes it a PC Engine game, but if you have an adapter, you can still play it in your home console, which I happen to have. And yes, it's still a super scaler. The graphics look kind of amazing for what they could do at the time, and the music feels very similar, but with its own unique Turbografx 16 style to it. Also, the controls are maybe just a little bit better. The game isn't as fast, which actually helps the gameplay here. And when you shift gears between high and low, well, you actually pull down on the controller to go high and up to go low, that's kind of confusing and counterintuitive. Also, sometimes it just completely gets wiped off the screen how fast you're going and what gear you're in, which wouldn't be so bad, but sometimes you really have to know when you're making a super tight corner. Luckily, it doesn't happen too often, and I just could not believe how well these games match up against each other again. Man, I'm really gonna be at a loss on this one. 2D shooters, that's what the Saturn's a little bit more known for, and Galactic Attack is a really common shooter for the system, which means it can also be found at a reasonable price, and it shows off what the system can do the very best, having arcade quality sound effects, as well as greatly animated 2D sprites, blowing up everything, some scaling going on, and a little bit of rotation effects, and it's just darn fun to play. Great music in the background as you blow apart all of the little critters that scale at you and even take out a few boss battles that are epic in size. You really start to feel like you are unstoppable before being, put in your place by being blown up every 5 seconds in the upper levels, making the learning curve here really just plain right. It will always keep you coming back. The graphics could not look any better, and I can't imagine anyone going wrong picking up Galactic Attack, also known as Layer Section. So I'm gonna say the Saturn is looking pretty darn good for a shoe-in victory with this one. 2D shooters is also what the Turbografx 16's pretty well known for, and blazing lasers is one of the most common ones, and you could find it at a reasonable price, and it kind of shows off of what the system can do best, having tons of sprites on the screen at once, with a little tiny bit of parallax scrolling here and there, and tons of power-ups, which make your ship an unstoppable force, until, you get blown up by a single hit, which will send you back, making the learning curve something that you're gonna want to have to work around and figure out. And you're gonna definitely want to do it because this game is really that fun. Picking up homing missiles or straightforward missiles, they give you so many choices of weapons right off the start. You're just gonna be swapping back and forth just to figure out which ones work best for you. And when you finally have it, you have it. And then you start working your way through all the levels of this game, and you wish it would never end. And it's just plain fun to play. This is simply one of the best shooters ever, and I wish everyone could experience it. And because it's kind of cheap enough, I guess anyone can. Okay, into the ninja category with the Shinobi Legions. Now, a lot of people tend to not like this game, but I am not like those people because I think this game is kind of amazing. When you play as a ninja with little ninja cutscenes in between, which kind of make no sense at all, you completely have me here. You could use your sword to run and hack and slash through people, throw some shurikens or whatever you guys want to call them out there, power-ups that make no sense at all, a block button, and you can just totally kill everyone, spraying blood all over the place, boss battles that are huge, and this game is just so darn cool. It even makes me feel a little bit like that Legend of Kagi game, and you jump around from tree to tree, which feels awkward sometimes, and your character has a lot of moves at his disposal here. He has a jumping flip and a double jump and just a lot of cool stuff that you could do, and this is a really fun game to play, but sadly, people just trash it as just another generic 2D action game because people were kind of fed up with those at the time. Not so much now, and people looking back on it probably should give it a second chance. On the Turbografx, we got Ninja Spirit. It's a sword slashing good time, and your character has a few tricks up his sleeves, like being able to clone himself. Having 2 clones of himself on the screen as a power-up is one of the coolest things I think I played at the time when I was playing this game, and I still think it's pretty impressive to this very day. You also have tons of different weapons at your disposal that you can switch back and forth from at any point in time. You have little bombs stars or ninja stars or your sword itself, which I don't know why anyone would want to do that if you could throw freaking bombs, and you even have this hook and rope thing that can take out everything on the screen if you do a certain maneuver right, and it's just fun. It even makes me think of Legend of Kage a bit, because you could jump really high up through the trees as you make your way to the right, just destroying every little ninja in its path. There's huge boss battles and lots of cool ninja stuff. No cutscenes that I know of, but it doesn't mean it's not a whole lot of fun. And if you turn on ninja stars, it's kind of a little like playing Contra with ninjas, which is one of the coolest things I think I ever said. In the first-person horror category, we have Enemy Zero. This is one that not everyone really loves because of how heavily cinematic it is, and it's also running through hallways. I'm playing here on the training mode because I never really got the hang of the game. You see, the creatures that you're fighting are invisible, and you have like the Halo chargey gun to kill them. How can you tell if they're there? Because you hear piano keys getting ridiculously close to you. Also, you have to shoot them at near point blank range in order to kill these invisible creatures, which makes it really frustrating. Most of the time, you're probably going to want to run from the enemies rather than kill them. Now, you only have so much battery to your Halo chargey fiery gun, so you're going to want to conserve energy as much as you can and always keep your eyes on your batteries. This is a really cool game if you could get into it and if you could figure it out, but for everyone else, you kind of have to pass. On the Turbografx, we have Silent Debuggers, a game that takes place in outer space on a space station, running through tight corridors, and aliens are on your ship and will probably try to kill you. Now, you only have so much batteries here for your weapons, so you're gonna want to watch and conserve your ammo. Also, your battery power seems to be tied to your life. Not that that really matters at all, because if you're out of ammo and around these creatures, they are gonna rip you to shreds anyway. How do you know when one's close? Well, you hear a little thing that sounds kind of like a piano key, and at least you can see the creatures this time around, and you don't have to be point blank next to them to kill them. However, because it's on a much more older system, the graphics are done much cruder. Moving through the space station is like simulated 3D instead of real 3D, and it's kind of fun to play, but it's not for everyone. Man, I'm starting to sound like I repeat myself a little bit too much. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is probably one of the best known games for the Sega Saturn, and sure, it's not as good as the PlayStation one, I guess, is what people say, mostly because it's in Japanese. However, there is an English version of it out there if you know how to play it on your system, which I happen to track down. And I could say it's just as fun. Sure, there's a little bit more slowdown, but that's really about it. Also, there's some transparency things, but I really don't care about that. I care about the gameplay itself, and it feels a lot like Castlevania. And it's, how can you go wrong here? Also, you can play as Richter Belmont through the entire game, and guess what? You could even play as Maria Renard, all grown up this time, not a little girl. You could actually see her still in the very beginning of the game as a little girl. If you happen to die one facing down Cookie Monster, she'll jump in and completely save your butt, just like playing in its previous predecessor. And yes, this is definitely one of the best games out there for the system, and it's hard to believe any game can top it. Castlevania Rondo of Blood for the Turbografx 16 CD system was also a Japanese import. However, there is an English version out there if you know how to track it down and find it, or just burn your own copy, because it's really easy to do. And then when you play the game, everything will be in German, but luckily you'll have some English subtitles, which is darn fun to see that. Now, after you rescue Maria here, you can take over as her, completely saving Richter Belmont's butt from the fire once again, because she is an unstoppable beast. Her maneuverability is that of a freaking ninja herself, and she will just destroy everything in her path. This game is ridiculously fun. Whether or not you play as Richter or Maria, you're gonna notice the excruciating attention to detail as you play through the game. Every level has branching paths, and it's just far bigger than you realize the first time you sit down and play it, sort of like Symphony of the Night. Both of these games are rather equally matched depending on if you want to sit down for a long experience or maybe a short one. So, which of the games are better? Well, in the pinball category, I kinda have to give the win to Last Gladiators, because the ball physics are a bit better, and I love multi-ball, and it shoves it in your face non-stop. In the racing category, we looked at Power Drift for both systems, but I rather play the Turbografx version. I think it's just a little bit more controllable, and when I'm playing a racing game, I want to be in control of my kart. Also, it's really impressive to look at. They both are, actually, but the fact that it's playing on a 16-bit, pseudo 16-bit, 8-bit system is pretty darn amazing. In the shooter category, these two are very evenly matched, but Galactic Attack is one of my all-time favorites, and yes, so is Blazing Lasers, but it just barely gets the edge. It's that arcade quality sound that I've been going after. In the ninja category, Shinobi vs. Ninja Spirit, the win goes to the Turbografx, because Ninja Spirit is like Contra with ninjas, and it is really cool when you run around with those ninja stars. And yeah, I beat this game. It's really a lot of fun and frustrating at the same time, but I strongly recommend you play both. In the horror category, Silent the Buggers just barely edges it out, even though truthfully neither one of these games are for me. Well, it's just a little bit easier to figure out. I probably won't come back to either one for quite some time though. And Symphony of the Night versus Rondo of Blood. This is a feud that's gone back and forth between many a Castlevania fans. It all comes down to what you rather play. Do you want to sit down for a huge experience over multiple days? Or do you just want to sit down over a few hours or maybe a nice evening and completely rock Dracula's world? Most of the time, I'm gonna go with the fast and quick play, so I really barely gotta give the edge to Rondo of Blood. But I do recognize Symphony of the Night as being one of the best games ever played. Overall, when you're playing the Sega Saturn or the Turbografx 16, no matter what you pick, you're gonna have a great time no matter which console you sit down with. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching.
Pinball.